I am Dr. Yakin Abdullah Habeeb, the author of the book It's Time for the Black Man's Revolution: How to Save Nigeria Now for Future Nigerians. In the fifth episode, I presented a brief of chapter 5 of the book where I discuss the dangers of faulty electoral practices. I now give a brief of chapter 6, 7, and 8. Chapter 8 is titled Zero Nationalism and High Divisive Jingoism. Nationalism is identification with one's own nation and support for its interest. We can safely say that nationalism is positively correlated to the survival, growth, and advancement of a nation. There is no denying the fact that there is shortage of nationalism in Nigeria. Yet it is the people that make a nation great by their love and sense of ownership, their pride, sense of belonging, their spirit of courage and sacrifice for their nation. All these are what culminate into the spirit of nationalism and patriotism. It is the nation first and the individuals last. Where there is patriotism, citizens and politicians see golden opportunity to demonstrate their zeal for patriotic activities. When Nigeria is mentioned, what comes to the minds are that comes to the minds of our people, the citizens of Nigeria, is shame, scorn, disdain, mockery, and a feeling of pessimism, as well as lack of hope. Our national conscience is petite. The conscience of and loyalty of Nigerians by and large is being buried in all forms of partisanship, ethnic jingoism, and religious and sectarian bias. So that any Nigerian is certainly more Muslim or Northern than he is Nigerian. Or as the case may be, he is more Southerner, Easterner, or Christian than a Nigerian. Hardly is anyone ready to die for the country. Who can we excuse in this? There is hardly anyone. All we worship is money. From chapter 7, we consider social indices attesting to the state of our nation. Chapter 7 is titled Weak Institutions and Powerful Individuals. Viable, strong, and functional institutions are a necessity for the survival and progress of a nation. They serve as interface between individuals, and between individuals and the state. They must exist independently of any individual in order to ensure a harmonious, coordinated, and orderly communal existence. There will be so much disorderliness, chaos, and backwardness when institutions are weak and dysfunctional. Unfortunately, what we have in Nigeria are an array of very weak institutions and very powerful individuals. Fragile states are said to be plagued by political identity fragmentation and weak national institutions in their development. Phenomena of weak institutions abound in almost all institutions in this country. Professor Gibran once observed that the greatest challenge facing Nigerian democracy was weak institutions. Poor internal democracy in political system and so on and so forth, political parties and so on and so forth. Chapter 8 is titled Widespread Injustice and a Compromised Justice Delivery System. Nations and states are as strong as their laws, legal settings, and judicial system. Aside the issue of the Nigerian borrowed laws, the problem of insufficiency of law, the weakness and porosity of the available laws, the inefficient and imbalanced judicial system, the archaic justice delivery system are all serious threats. Where laws are weak or insufficient and the system of legal administration is flawed, insecurity, unrest, economic exploitation, political oppression, and social degradation will become rife. Consequently, the level of dissent, agitation, and lack of patriotism will predispose the state to all forms of divisive shock, as it is with Nigeria today. Pervasive hatred, rancor, and acrimony from the citizens towards the state can be said to be worse than an invading army. Many of our laws were enacted by decree. Many acts are several decades old and no longer in tune with either the practical reality of the country or general development in the modern world. Due to the lack of efficacy and in some cases absence of relevant laws, public office holders have become fond of reckless actions that either threaten the unity and well-being of the nation or portend long-term economic risks. Many laws are based on narrow political interests to the detriment of the poor masses. In the end, the country is left with weak and inadequate laws. The problem with legality, law and justice delivery in Nigeria goes beyond the aforementioned. Others include, but not limited to, corrupt lawyers and judges, frequent disregard for the rule of law by the executive, so that there is nowhere left without a rot, and its attendant damage to the judicial system. The legislators that are supposed to make law, the judiciary that are supposed to interpret laws, and the executive that are supposed to enforce them all have their fair share of the undoing of justice delivery in the country. Oladimeji Ramon wrote, and I quote, "Executive lawlessness is at its heights as reflected in flagrant human rights violation by the government at the presiding level and carried on further by the law enforcement institution that could now arguably be described as rogue force in terms of extortion, bribery and corruption, negligence of duty, extrajudicial killing, selectiveness in law enforcement, and high-handedness." Unquote. According to Yuri Fedotov, the Executive Director, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, weak rule of law and lack of good governance pose a major threat to socio-economic development the world over, and they have hindered progress in attaining the Millennium Development Goals. He stated further, effective and humane justice systems and institutions are fundamental to building societies that facilitate growth and development. Unquote. Endless delay in the judicial process and inability to actually bring cases to closure are major problems in the Nigerian judicial system. The difference in treatment of high-profile offenders versus ordinary Nigerians is a major challenge. Rich offenders can afford high-skilled lawyers who can devise sufficient strategies to deploy or prevent successive prosecution. Poor offenders, on the other hand, don't have this benefit. In the next episode, I will give a brief of chapter 9 of the book dealing with the hydra-headed monster called corruption. You can obtain a copy of the book from bookshop around you, or click the link below to obtain a copy from Amazon or Smashwords. Thank you.